Welcome to the class. Today's class is about applications of UV visible spectroscopy. So, now let me go through the lecture. First application is, it is used for the determination of qualitative analysis of an organic compound. How it is? Let me explain. So, in the structure elucidation of organic compounds, that means a presence or absence of particular absorption band at a particular wavelength. It may be regarded as an evidence for the presence of that particular group in the compound. That means, if suppose I want to investigate ethylene molecule. So, ethylene is acting as a chromophore. So, if you want to know the particular chromophore, as you know that ethylene will exhibit its absorption maximum at about 175 nanometers. So, if suppose at 175 nanometer, if you are finding an absorption peak, then it will give us the information that there is a presence of a particular chromophore called this what? Yes, ethylene, because the pi to pi star transitions are possible, and that too the pi to pi star transitions are exhibited at the range of 175 nanometer. It is indicating that the presence of the particular compound, that is ethylene. Like that, if you suppose to assume benzene molecule, benzene is also acting as a chromophore. It is also giving a particular absorption in the UV visible spectra. At 255 nanometer, if at all you find the band, that band indicates the presence of aromatic compound, that is benzene, which is a chromophore. So, depending upon the absorption band in the UV visible spectra, it is easy for us to find the structure of an organic compound. And the next one is determination of impurities. So, if suppose in the investigation of a compound, if at all any impurities are present, we may not get correct results. So, that we have to detect the impurities, how much amount of impurities are present in the compound. Otherwise, a compound spectra will be superimposable with the extra impurities. Okay. So, that is why we have to eliminate those impurities. So, to eliminate those impurities, first of all we have to determine what are the impurities that are present in the compound. For that, here we are using the technique, that is TLC technique. TLC is thin layer chromatography. It is a very simple technique commonly used for the quantitative analysis of the reaction mixture. According to this technique, a small spot is kept on the TLC plate, which is allowed to run in appropriate solvent medium in the UV chamber. So, in the UV chamber, you will have the UV source, UV light source, and the placement which is meant for TLC plate. If you are placed the TLC plate in the chamber, and if you switch on the UV lamp can interact with the spot that is present on TLC plate, then the different composition of the plate, the different compositions of the compound that are travel at different distances based on their polarity, and it can be visualized on the TLC plate under a UV lamp. So, based on the UV lamp only you can differentiate the color of the substances, different substances. If suppose the spot consists of 2 or more components, that 2 or more components can be split up to 2 or more spots with different colors. Those colors can be visualized by using this UV lamp that is present in UV chamber. And if at all the extra spots are finded, those extra spots are nothing but they are the impurities present in the compound. compound consists of only one spot. If at all you are getting another spots also with respect in addition to the compound spot, those extra spots are known as impurities. By that you can find out the compound is a impure compound. So, as it is finded as impure compound, you cannot use it for investigating the sample under the instrumentation purpose, because the compound is impure compound, you cannot investigate, you can get incorrect values. So, just throw off the impure compound and take the pure compound, otherwise impure compound has to be purified. Next you have to investigate the compound by using the following technique, that is another method. So, by using the qualitative analysis, using this method we can detect the impurities. And next it is used for the purpose of quantitative analysis also. Quantitative analysis means how much amount of the compound present in the mixture, that can also be find out by using UV visible spectroscopy, and the determination is based on Beer-Lambert's law, which is known as the mathematical expression A is equal to log of I naught by I. So, here I naught is the intensity of incident radiation and I is intensity of transmitted radiation, and the term which is simply substituted or simply it is denoted as 1 by transmittance, inverse of transmittance. So, that is log of 1 by T, and it is simply as epsilon into C into L. Epsilon is molar extinction coefficient, C is concentration of the solution, L is the path length. So, by using this formula, that is Beer-Lambert's law, we can find out the unknown concentration of the compound. For example, estimation of mixture of anthracene and naphthalene. To estimate the mixture, first of all we have to separate the components that are present in the mixture. If the components that are present in the mixture is unknown, then first of all we have to know, that means qualitative analysis has to be taken place and then quantitative analysis follows. First of all, if you suppose to run this mixture in UV visible spectrum, then anthracene predominantly shows its peak at 375 nanometers. At 375 nanometers, if at all you are finding a peak, that indicates that yes, anthracene is present in your mixture. By that you can separate the anthracene from naphthalene, and next if you know the absorption, then it is very easy for us to calculate the concentration. Okay. So, by using the technique, A is directly proportional to concentration C. So, this is the technique to find out the concentration of unknown compound. And one more also I will explain. UV visible spectroscopy has been extensively used in industrial analytical organic chemistry. That means, if suppose a percentage of vitamin A1 and vitamin A2 in natural fats or oils can be estimated by the measurement of intensities of the peaks at 325 nanometer and 351 nanometer. And 325 nanometer is the indication of the presence of vitamin A1, and 351 nanometer is the indication of presence of vitamin A2. So, see here, vitamin A is available in two different forms, vitamin A1 and vitamin A2. So, it is having 325 nanometer and it is having 351 nanometer. two peaks, if you are observing, these two peaks are responsible for the presence of vitamin A1 and vitamin A2. Now, if you want to estimate the compound, first of all you have to know the known values. By comparing the intensities of the known solution of vitamin A1 and A2 with unknown solution, it enables us the concentration. That means a same technique, absorbance, which is directly proportional to concentration. If suppose a known solution, let us suppose A1, C1, and for unknown solution, you know the absorption because it is a standard compound and you do not know concentration. C2 is unknown. So, C2 is unknown, C2 can be calculated easily by using the technique, simple technique. If you compare this, A1 is directly proportional to C1, A2 is directly proportional to C2, you know A1 and you know C1 and the A2 value is also known, you do not know C2. As the mathematical expression is applied, you can find out the C2 easily by the Beer-Lambert's law, and the similar procedure is used for the estimation of ergosterol in fats. Ergosterol is the provitamin D. So, this is the precursor of vitamin D. So, this procedure is used for the estimation of that ergosterol also, and some amount of anthracene is present in benzene. How much amount of anthracene is present in benzene, that is also calculated by using the particular technique. And presence of carbon sulfide in carbon tetrachloride. So, carbon disulfide, in minor amount of carbon disulfide is present in carbon tetrachloride. How much amount of carbon disulfide is present, that can be calculated. And one more thing, chlorophyll in plant material. So, how much content of chlorophyll is present in plant material, that can be detected by using this quantitative technique by UV visible spectroscopy law, that is Beer-Lambert's law. Okay. That means UV visible spectroscopy is extensively used for the determination of organic compounds quantitatively as well as qualitatively, right. And here I am explaining one more application. Yes, this is a progress of chemical reaction. So, progress of chemical reaction means if at all you perform a chemical reaction, how much extent of reaction has undergone, is it at middle stage or the reaction has completed, that information can be known by using UV visible spectroscopy. Now, let us know how it is. Here I am taking an example which is a secondary alcohol I am taking here, and secondary alcohol on oxidation it is converted to a carbonyl compound which is a simple ketone. So, alcohol is converted to carbonyl compound. If primary alcohol is undergoing the reaction, then you will get acetone, that is aldehyde, acetaldehyde, that is aldehyde. Here we are using secondary alcohol. So, secondary alcohol on oxidation it will give ketone. That means here if you see the functional groups that is present in a prior case and after the reaction, here the functional group is alcohol and here the functional group is carbonyl compound. So, if suppose reverse reaction has taken place, that is if you assume reverse reaction, when ketone undergo reduction it will form secondary alcohol. So, this is the simple reaction as we know clearly. Here my intention is when the reaction takes place at the starting stage, the concentration of the secondary alcohol must be very high and the concentration of the ketone must be 0 because the reaction has not started at the starting step. If the reaction started slowly, a secondary alcohol concentration has decreased slowly and at the same time the amount of ketone that has formed in the reaction has grown gradually. Okay, right. That means if you want to know the product formation, how much extent of product is formed, that can be calculated by investigating the absorption spectra. If you take the graph between concentration and absorption intensity, you will get the spectra like this. Okay. So, if suppose the reaction is carried out at time t is equal to 0, that is at starting stage. At the starting stage the product is not formed. If the product is not formed, there is no relevant absorption spectra. That means at t is equal to 0, it is indicating there is no absorption spectra at t is equal to 0. After some time, at a midpoint of reaction, if you investigate the compound, then you will get the peak like this. So, at the intermediate stage you are getting the peak. So, this intermediate stage peak give us the information that yes, the reaction is carrying out and the product is in the stage of formation. So, product is in the stage of formation, but the product is not fully formed. So, that is why here we are getting the absorption peak in a minor quantity. After some time, if the reaction has completed, if you are investigated the compound again, and here if you find the absorption spectra clearly, so this is at time t. So, at time t you will get the absorption peak clearly. This shows us that yes, the reaction has completed and the product is formed clearly. So, this is the process of investigating the progress of chemical reaction. If suppose you want to know the reduction path, here I am finding the oxidation path from secondary alcohol to ketone. If at all ketone is undergoing reduction to form alcohol, what will happen? The same concept we are applying in opposite manner, that is ketone is present as major one and the reaction has started. At the starting stage of reaction, that means at t is equal to 0, ketone is only the reactant and there is no product at particularly t is equal to 0. So, that is why you will have the absorption peak, main absorption peak. So, this main absorption peak will indicate us that t is equal to 0. After some time the peak intensity must be decreases after some time. At the midpoint, if you are finding the decrease in the intensity of the peak, then it indicates that yes, the reaction is progressing towards the formation of the product and it is at the midpoint. And after some time, if you find that there is absence of absorption peak, then it clearly indicates us that yes, the product is formed. So, that is why absorption peak is completely vanished. There is no absorption peak because here you are having carbon to oxygen single bond. So, as carbon to oxygen single bond, which type of transition is possible here? Here there is a possibility of N2 sigma star transition. And if here carbon is doubly bonded to oxygen, that means there is a possibility of N2 pi star transition. As we know that N2 pi star transitions are giving high lambda max values and showing the absorption peaks clearly, but for the case of N2 sigma star transitions, they are transparent towards UV region. They may not observe in the case of UV region. They will fall down in the ultraviolet, that is a vacuum ultraviolet region. So that's why we cannot sense out the transitions, that is N2 sigma star transitions. So that's why we cannot get the absorption peak for N2 sigma star. So that is the reason why for N2 sigma star here we are not getting any absorption peak. For N2 pi star here we are getting high intense absorption peak. So from here to here we are forwarding the reaction, that is oxidation reaction. If you are considering reaction backward, then the intensity is high, from higher intensity to slowly decreasing the intensity, and then there is no intense bond, that is absence of intense bond. So this indicates the reduction path. So because the reaction is in equilibrium condition, how much amount of the reaction has undergone forward, that much amount of reaction has undergone backward also. So this is the indication of progress of chemical reaction by using UV visible spectroscopy. You can carry out by your own example applying this phenomenon. Okay, right. Next, a study of charge transfer complexes. Simply, the charge transfer complex is denoted as CT complex. So what is a CT complex? CT is meant for charge transfer. So association of or combination of two or more molecules in which a fraction of electric charge is transferred between the two molecules. Okay, that means one of the molecule is acting as electronically rich one, that is electron donor, and one of the molecule is acting as electronically deficient one and acting as electron deficient one. So in between the two electronically efficient, that is electronically efficient one and electronically deficient one, if at all the association or combination takes place, then the complex has developed between the two compounds. That complex is known as charge transfer complex. So here I am giving the examples for charge transfer donors and charge transfer acceptors. So these are charge transfer donors, a compound which is having electron donating groups. So as the electron donating groups are available in the compound, there is availability of more number of electrons, so that's why they will be acting as donors. And here there is a presence of electronically deficient one, that means electron withdrawing groups are present. They are able to extract out the electrons from the external source, that means they will be acting as charge transfer acceptors. They are donors and here acceptor. If at all the combination of any two molecules are taken place, one electron donor and one electron acceptor, the combination of the two molecules, after that there is a formation of a complex between the two compounds. That complex is known as charge transfer complex. Now let us see how the complex has developed. Here I am taking benzene, which is a charge transfer donor, and this is charge transfer acceptor. So donor is ready to give the electrons and acceptor here it is accepting the electrons. As a result, there must be the association of the two molecules to develop the new complex. This complex is known as charge transfer complex. before the reaction takes place, here if you find the benzene molecule individually benzene can give the absorption spectrum at around 255 nanometers. And if you interpret the spectra of iodine, it will give the spectra at 500 nanometers. So, 500 nanometer means it will give particular color, because it is fall in the region of visible region. 400 to 800 region you are having the wavelength, that means iodine is a colored compound, specifically it is blue in color, right. When iodine is mixed with benzene, then there must be the formation of charge transfer complex. Then how to find out the formation of charge transfer complex? If you record the spectrum for the complex developed will give the absorption at 290 nanometer. So, see here benzene individually giving its absorption spectra at 255 nanometer and iodine individually giving its spectra at 500 nanometer. When they are in combination, if the reaction takes place, the two values are not visible, and here we are having a new value, that is a new value which is at 290 nanometer. It indicates that yes, the charge transfer complex has developed due to the interaction of benzene with iodine. So, it indicates that a formation of charge transfer complex. Now, let me take another example. Here the reaction that is taking place between aniline molecule and tetracyanoethylene. So, 4 cyano groups are attached. So, tetracyanoethylene. Individually aniline molecule give its absorption at 280 nanometers and this tetracyanoethylene molecule will give the absorption at 300 nanometers. When they are in combination or when they are in association, then there is a development of charge transfer complex. Due to the formation of charge transfer complex, here you are getting the new value. So, individual values, both two individual values are vanishing and you are here getting the new wavelength value, that is at 610 nanometer. If at all you are getting the absorption peak at 610 nanometer, then it indicates that the presence of charge transfer complex. So, it is a colored compound because it is also present in the visible region. So, that means it will give the particular color to the compound. So, by the color development also we can say that yes, the charge transfer spectra or charge transfer complex is formed. Okay. So, by this method we can find out the presence of charge transfer complex by the association of two molecules. It can be determined by using the technique UV visible spectroscopy. Now, the next one is distinction between conjugated and non-conjugated systems. So, the technique is useful for the differentiation of conjugated system with non-conjugated system. If suppose two compounds are given for you and the two compounds are carbonyl compounds which are having double bonds in the compound. If you want to find out which one is conjugated and which one is non-conjugated, then you have to run the UV spectrum for the compound for the two compounds individually. For the first compound, if it is first compound, for the first compound if you are taken the UV spectrum, you will get particular lambda max and replace the compound with second one. So, if you are investigating second compound, then also you will get particular lambda max. If you compare both the lambdas that is getting in the interpretation, you will have more lambda for the case of conjugated system. So, if the two compounds are given or find it out to know which one is conjugated system and which one is non-conjugated system, the system which exhibits the higher lambda max is a conjugated system. The system which is exhibiting a lower lambda max value, that it indicates that it is a non-conjugated system. So, by this way we can differentiate conjugated system from non-conjugated system. Okay. Like this you can take another example and compare the two values. By comparison you can find out which one is conjugated and which one is non-conjugated. Okay. Right. And here the next one is, it is used for knowing the extension of conjugation. So, extension of conjugation means increase of conjugation. If again two compounds are given, name this as 1 and name this as 2 and run the UV spectrum, it will give particular lambda and it will give particular lambda. If you count the number of double bonds, here the number of double bonds present in the system is 2 and here the number of double bonds present in the system is 3. So, from 2 to 3 and the 3 is extension. Okay. Those 3 are present in conjugation only. So, that is why extension of conjugation will give us increase in the lambda, that is bathochromic shift will be observed. So, if two compounds are given, if you are investigating using UV visible spectroscopy, the compound which is giving lower lambda value must be a low conjugated compound and the compound which is having higher lambda value must be extent of conjugation containing bond. So, by this we can differentiate the two compounds by using UV visible spectroscopy. Now, the next application is, it is used for the determination of configuration of geometrical isomers. So, geometrical isomers means a compound which exhibits two forms, one is at cis orientation and the another one is at trans orientation. So, here if you see a molecule, stilbene molecule, so stilbene here it is existing in two forms, one is a trans form and the another one is at cis form. So, at a trans form, if you are observing, the bulky groups are far apart to each other, so that is why repulsions are minimum and that it will give the lambda max at 294 nanometer with the absorption intensity 24,000. Here K indicates 1000. So, 24,000. And if you replace the compound with cis form, so if cis isomer of the stilbene is investigated, it will give a lambda max at 278 nanometer and the absorption intensity is decreasing here 9350. See here lambda and here lambda 294 to 278. So, decrease in the lambda and here you are finding decrease in the epsilon, that means in addition to hypsochromic shift you are finding hypochromic shift also. Okay. So, by this we can differentiate the two isomers, which one is trans form and which one is cis form. The isomer that exhibits higher lambda max must be trans isomer. The isomer that exhibits lower lambda max with low intensity must be cis isomer. Okay, right. So, here I am taking one more example. So, this is what? This is an example of cinnamic acid. So, cinnamic acid is also available in two forms, trans cinnamic acid, cis cinnamic acid. As we know that trans isomer will always give the higher lambda max value. So, here it is giving 272 nanometer with high intensity, and if you compare the compound with cis isomer will exhibit the lambda max at 268 nanometer with the intensity 1700. So, decrease in the lambda as well as decrease in the epsilon. Hypsochromic effect. In addition to hypsochromic, you are finding hypochromic also. Okay. So, this is the observation that we find for the case of geometrical isomers. So, for all the geometrical isomers which are in trans form will always exhibit higher lambda max, and the cis isomer will always exhibit a lower lambda max. Okay. So, by this we are moving to next application, and here the application is determination of strength of hydrogen bonding. Strength of hydrogen bonding means if you are taken a spectra with a compound like acetone, if acetone is investigated under the presence of hexane, hexane is a non-polar molecule, that is non-polar solvent. So, hexane is a solvent actually. Due to the solvent effect, what happens to the molecule absorption spectra, that can be determined here. So, if acetone molecule is taken, acetone is a polar compound. If polar compound is recorded in presence of a non-polar solvent, here you are having the lambda max value at 279 nanometer, that is N to pi star transition. And if you replace the solvent by a polar solvent, so hexane is replaced by water, which is a polar solvent. Now, due to the polar interaction, the compound is polar and the solvent is polar. Compound is simply, it is a solute. Solute is polar, solvent is polar. Due to the combination of polar solute and polar solvent, there must be the presence of polar solution. Due to this and the association of polar solute to polar solvent, there must be the presence of hydrogen bonding. Due to the presence of hydrogen bonding, the N to pi star transitions will be lowered. It is of solvent effect. Okay. Why the solvent is not affected here? Here we are taken non-polar solvent. As the solvent is non-polar, it may not that much efficient with the non-bonding electrons, because the transition has taken place in this case is of non-bonding electrons only. When we are using non-polar solvent is not that much able to pick up the non-bonding electrons. As a result, you will get N to pi star transitions easily. So, that is why you will have the lambda max at 279 nanometer. But here the case is complicated, because due to the presence of water which is having polarity, due to the polar nature, as the polar molecule will have the ability towards the non-bonding electrons. So, that is why the non-bonding electrons will associate with the polar solvent. As the non-bonding electrons are in effect with the polar solvent, the excitation of non-bonding electrons is not that much easy. That means we require high amount of energy. to dissociate the hydrogen bonding and to excite the non-bonding electrons, we require high amount of energy. As the amount required is high, then what about lambda? Energy and lambda are both are inversely proportional. When energy is increases, then what about lambda? Lambda must be decreases. So that's why due to the presence of hydrogen bonding, we experience decrease in the lambda max, that is decrease in the wavelength. So due to the solvent effect, we find that decrease in the lambda max. Okay. So the compound which is having non-polar solvent, the compound which is having polar solvent, that can be identified by using this technique. Okay. That means in a prior case, if at all acetone is recorded in presence of hexane, it will give 279 nanometer. That means it is solvent free reaction or solvent free investigation. If the acetone molecule is in assistance with the polar solvent, if you are recording the spectrum again, then you are getting the absorption peak at 264 nanometer. This is due to hydrogen bonding. So initially the compound is same and after also the compound is same, but the only change is solvent. Due to the change in solvent, we are experiencing the decrease in the lambda max value. It is due to hydrogen bonding. By this, when the hydrogen bonding is present, when the hydrogen bonding is present, when the hydrogen bonding is not present, can be find out by using the technique, that is UV visible spectroscopy. Okay. For the case of polar solvent, you find hydrogen bonding, so that's why decrease in lambda. For the case of non-polar solvent, there is no interaction, so that's why you will get higher lambda. This is the key indication, which one is freely bounded and which one is hydrogen bonded. Okay, right. And UV visible spectroscopy is used for determining the equatorial and axial conformations. Okay, which conformation is equatorial and which conformation is axial can also be find out by using UV visible spectroscopy. Here I am taking two conformations, cyclohexanone derivatives, and these cyclohexanones are containing alpha beta unsaturation, and here also you are having alpha beta unsaturation. So alpha beta unsaturated compound it is, and at gamma position you are having substitution. For the type of compound alpha beta unsaturated compound, if at all gamma position is replaced by a polar substituent at axial position, okay, gamma position replaced by gamma position hydrogen replaced by a polar substituent, then the conformer will give high lambda max value. So it will give higher lambda max than compared to equatorial one. Okay, so that means here you see gamma position, and that too gamma axial position, particularly not only gamma position, gamma axial position. If at all gamma axial position is replaced by a polar substituent, that will cause the increase in lambda max. Here if you find gamma axial position is not a polar substituent, gamma equatorial position is a polar substituent. So equatorial position will not affect on lambda max for this case. So that's why the compound will exhibit low lambda max. The compound which is exhibiting high lambda max is eggshell conformer, and the compound which is exhibiting low lambda max is equatorial conformation. By this we can find out the conformation, which one is the eggshell conformer and which one is equatorial conformer. If suppose you are investigating simply cyclohexanone, for the case of cyclohexanone you have to consider alpha position, because this is the polar position, this is the polar group. For the polar group, whatever the adjacent position is present, that position is only the considerable part. Now this is the alpha portion and this is also alpha portion. Two alpha portions are possible, alpha and alpha dash. Okay, so at alpha portion, wherever you have to substitute a polar substituent at eggshell position, then it will show higher lambda max. If at all you are substituting the alpha position at equatorial site, then it will give lower lambda max. By this you can differentiate both the conformation, which one is eggshell conformation and which one is equatorial conformation. The conformer which is showing higher lambda max is eggshell conformer, and the conformation which is showing a lower lambda max is equatorial conformer. Okay, this is the way of distinction between equatorial and eggshell conformers. And next, it is used in the study of keto-enol tautomerism. So this is a simple example for exhibiting keto-enol tautomerism. See here, pyridine molecule which is substituted at second position by OH. So 2-hydroxypyridine. When 2-hydroxypyridine undergo keto-enol tautomerism, then it can be given as an alpha beta unsaturated compound like this. Initially it is said to be simple alcohol, because alcoholic substitution is present here. So for carbon to oxygen you are having a single bond. So as single bond is present between carbon and oxygen, that is electronegative atom which is bearing lone pair of electrons, there is a possibility of transition of non-bonding electrons to sigma star orbital n to sigma star, because the bond is single bond. Carbon to oxygen bond is single bond. The excitation of electrons must be taken place by n to sigma star transition. For this compound, carbon and oxygen are bound together by double bond, and here also you are finding non-bonding electrons. Now the non-bonding electrons are moved towards pi star, because pi bond is present, right? So pi star orbital. For this compound you will observe n to pi star transitions which are present in ultraviolet region, and for this compound you are finding n to sigma star transitions. They are not found in the region of UV, they will find in the region of vacuum ultraviolet region. Okay, so when the keto-enol tautomerism is taken place, you can find out that at which time the form, that is the compound is present in enol form, and which it is present in keto form. Okay, due to the presence of n to pi star, there is a formation of absorption spectra Due to the presence of N2 pi star absorption spectra, it is clear that yes, the compound is present in keto form. If at all you are not having the absorption spectra, if you run the compound, then it gives the information that the compound is present in enol form. So, that is why it is not giving the spectrum, that is relevant absorption spectrum. So, by this way we can find out the compound which is present in enol form or keto form, and which form is extensually, that means the extent of the keto form and enol form is also calculated by using this UV visible spectroscopy. Okay. By this, the consideration of N2 sigma star and N2 pi star. So, N2 pi star will give us the information that there is a presence of alpha beta unsaturated compound, and N2 sigma star will give us the information that there is a presence of compound, that is pyridine, which is bounded to OH. Okay. So, by this it is a enol form and it is a keto form. And next application is identification of unknown compound. How to identify an unknown compound? If suppose you are taken two components, in the two components, if you know one compound is unknown compound, if you are investigating at a particular absorption, if the compound is run in UV visible spectra, a compound give particular absorption peak, right. So, by the absorption peak you can have the lambda, you can find the lambda, that means lambda value is find out. Okay. By the lambda value, if it is correlating with the experimental value, if suppose simple example ethylene, if you take ethylene will give the absorption at around 174 nanometer. Okay. If it is run in the UV visible spectrum, if the spectrum is looking like this, and if you extrapolate the dots towards the x axis, that is lambda, then you find the unknown lambda value. So, by this unknown lambda, if it is coinciding with 174 nanometer, and that too the transition is due to pi to pi star, then it gives us the information that the unknown compound is ethylene. Like that benzene, if the absorption peak is observed at 255 nanometer and the lambda max at 255 nanometer with pi to pi star transition, it indicates that the presence of that unknown compound is a benzene. Like that we can identify the unknown compound in the mixture by using UV visible spectroscopy. And next the example is the application is detection of functional groups. So, which functional group is present in the compound is also determined by using UV visible spectroscopy. That is due to if suppose the compound is investigated, if we are taken 200 nanometer as constant value, by the spectrum, if you are getting the spectra below 200 nanometer, then it is responsible for N2 sigma star transition. So, below 200 nanometer, simply it is responsible for N2 sigma star transition. After 200 nanometer, there may be N2 pi star or pi to pi star transition. So, N2 sigma star transition means which type of compounds are present? Saturated compounds which contain a heteroatom like alcohols, amines, alkyl halides and extra, and of course. Okay. So, the absorption spectra below at 200 nanometer, it gives us the information that the compound which consists of functional groups ROH or RNH2 or RCl. If the compound which is exhibiting after 200 nanometer, then it gives us the information that there is a presence of N to pi star transitions or pi to pi star transitions. That means there is a presence of chromophore units or carbonyl compounds, carboxylic acids or esters or nitro compounds. So, that means we can find out the functional group by using this technique. So, this is the way of explaining the applications of UV visible spectroscopy. Okay. So, the application is qualitatively we can determine the nature of compound, quantitative determination, the amount of unknown compound present in the sample can be determined by using UV visible spectroscopy, and there is a distinction between a conjugated system and unconjugated system, and the extent of conjugation can be determined by using UV visible spectroscopy, and it is extensively used for the determination of hydrogen bonding, and also keto-enol tautomerism can be investigated, unknown compound prediction can be taken place, and detection of functional groups, and mainly progress of a chemical reaction can be found out by using UV visible spectroscopy. Okay, that is all for the class. Thank you.